let me just close down this mail and whatever. So.
Okay, awesome. It says we're recording. This is my first time recording a Zoom, so we'll see how it goes. Awesome. So I am here today with Maryn from Indie Birth. She is an incredible, inspirational woman. She is a content marketing powerhouse. She's grown an incredible online business and also a incredible midwifery practice in her hometown of Sedona, Arizona. Is all of that information accurate, Maryn?
Sure, I'll take your compliment.
That's how you seem from where I'm sitting, at least.
Well, that's very kind. And yes, Sedona is accurate.
Okay, awesome. So mainly on my blog lately, I have been writing about marketing for doulas, midwives, and women's wellness providers. So I was hoping to ask you a couple of questions about those areas today and kind of how you've grown. You can talk about how you've grown your midwifery practice, or you can also talk about how you've grown your online presence as well. It's totally up to you, kind of what you want to share. And then I also wanted to ask you a little bit about working from home with kids, because I think that a lot of women are in a similar situation when they're working in this realm, trying to balance all of those different things. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I'm so excited. I just have so much gratitude for you being willing to meet with me. Like, I'm so nervous.
Well, don't be nervous. I mean, I think it's super important that we can talk about these things and that more midwives and doulas and birth workers in general feel confident with how they're running their business, and that it's worth, any time away from your kids, which is how I feel. It really has to be worth it. So I'm happy to share whatever is helpful to people.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, so my first question is just how you kind of incorporate your work into your daily routine. Do you have like a special planner, a task organization system? How do you balance all of those different things with having your kind of kids around?
Right. Well, like a lot of people probably, I've gone through phases of being super organized and then being more freestyle with it and just going with inspiration. And I think deep down, I'm a much more type A person, or at least that's how it manifested before I had kids. I was a musician then, and I had a practice schedule and I knew what I was doing when and all those kind of things. But that's kind of faded for me with kids. And to be totally honest, in some moments, I think maybe I should find a way to go back to that. But a super structure just doesn't work for me right now in my life, even though I feel like I have the skills to do that. It just doesn't work because I want to be able to be flexible. I want to be able to be with the kids when I want to and when they want to and when they're not busy. And then, of course, births and that kind of thing are coming up regularly as well. So I really just mostly go with inspiration. I do have a couple of concrete things that happen, like meetings with Margot, for example, and it sounds silly, but like posting to Instagram every day, like there are certain things that definitely happen and probably happen at about the same time. But other than that, I really just wait for inspiration. And then when I feel really inspired, I find it easier to secure the time. Like I can look at that day and say, like, I really want to get that podcast done. Where can I do it? And I'll almost always do it then. But if it was just on the schedule, podcast, then I don't know. I have to kind of wait for the inspiration to strike.
Right. Yeah. I kind of wondered whether you kept a detailed, like, content organized calendar of like long-term plan, and if you have like a long-term business plan, or if you kind of followed the inspiration. I think that's
let me be very clear that I'm half of Indie Birth, and Margot is very much the planner, and the things are written down, and so it's really beautiful to work with another woman, especially that you're in balance with. And I think that's how we keep the balance. So not to say, she isn't inspired or I don't ever organize, but a lot of how we get things done is in that structure with, she kind of will lay it out and we'll have deadlines, and then we'll both kind of fill stuff in, and then I'm working on my own projects, as is she. So that's how I think things actually get done, is us together.
Awesome. Kind of tag teaming everything.
Yeah.
So cool. Awesome. Do you think it's important that other midwives and doulas have a content marketing strategy and are posting to Facebook or Instagram or blogging or having any kind of online presence?
Yeah, it's something I think a lot about, because it feels like I do sometimes two different things, meaning that, Indie Birth is not a midwifery practice. We have the school and lots of classes. So I'm really familiar with the strategies and, like I said, the kind of planning that goes into that. But then, I guess it serves double duty for me in a sense with my midwifery practice. People know me from Indie Birth, and any posting I do about birth, or both birth photos I share, for example, kind of are in both places. If I only had a midwifery practice, however, I don't know how I would do it. I think content is really awesome. And that's something we're always trying to inspire our students to do, whether they're midwives or whatever they go out into the world doing, because the world really does need more awesome birth content, whether that's photos or articles or research or whatever your thing is. So yeah, to answer your question, I think it is really important. But for me, I kind of leave the advertising out of it. I feel like the content is most important, and getting people to get to know you and know your philosophy, and then just naturally, my practice has kind of flowed out of that. So I don't know if that's exactly what you mean, but
just kind of sharing wisdom and attracting the potential clients that would be a good fit on both ends.
Yeah, and that's exactly the wording I use too. I don't like to think of it as getting clients or anything like that. It's really attracting the right people. And so, yeah, the best way to do that is with really awesome content that just allows people to know you and what you're about, and take advantage of, whatever free workshop, whatever it is. And then they know where to find you if they want something else. So I like that approach, rather than, kind of selling yourself in some other kind of way. Has never felt right to me.
Do you feel like meeting people in person is essential to getting to know clients?
I do work with women virtually, actually. I have, a handful of women around the country that I do virtual prenatals with, and may or may not be available kind of in this manner for a birth scenario, just case depending. So I guess I would have to say no, because I haven't met them face to face. But these kind of videos nowadays, yes, it's not in person, but it's pretty darn close, other than the obvious hands-on kind of thing. But yeah, otherwise meeting people is great. And that's really the way midwives and doulas have always built their work. And I think
meeting people one-on-one.
Yeah, and that, along with word of mouth kind of thing, I think is, exactly what we do and what we're good at mostly.
Yeah, I would totally agree. It seems like the midwives and doulas around our area have pretty much completely grown their businesses through word of mouth, which is just incredible. Do you feel like there are any tips that you have for growing social media accounts? And do you feel like there is a presence that's more important than the other? So like Facebook versus Instagram or any other platform? It's helpful.
Well, both platforms are constantly going through so much change, and I'm not, a guru on either. I find it a lot to keep up with. The algorithms, are always changing, and what you post one day will be seen, and next week it won't be seen for who knows what reason. So I am not too fond of Facebook. I'll just be honest about that. But I'll fully admit that it has been really integral in growing Indie Birth in years past. I haven't found it as useful in the last couple of years, specifically the last year. Again, for reasons that I don't even understand. Our content isn't being shown. Our ads even, we're funneling lots of money in, and there's not a lot we say there's not a lot to show when we're looking at the numbers in Ads Manager, but I can't even really say that. It's not something that's quantifiable. So it's sort of this mystery. And I guess if people come in to the school, for example, through a Facebook ad, then it's probably still worth it for us in the long run. But we all know that they are censoring birth a lot. And even though we work directly with Facebook on that, we are not able to place ads that have any kind of actual birth content. So they changed the policy around posting, which is cool. We've enjoyed posting birth photos, but again, we can't even link the Indie Birth account to those ads. So it's been a bit frustrating. Instagram, of course, is just sort of similar and tied to the Facebook land. I prefer it personally. We have a social media person that posts for us on there. So I write the post every day and submit the photo, and she takes care of the rest. And I like that format for whatever reason. I like being able to view people's photos. When we have posted nice birth photos, I feel like we're getting a lot of engagement with that. And in general, it's a nicer, I don't know how to say it, like it's just a more positive feel. I find Facebook has gotten really negative, which is why I don't enjoy being there. I'm not there to convince anybody or, even talk negatively about a birth photo that's posted. I'm just not interested in that. And on Instagram, it seems like the engagement is just so much more positive. People have genuine questions. And it's like if they're following you, they must agree to a certain, extent, which just makes the conversation nicer and more pleasant. But I try not to spend time really on either of those places. But as far as growing engagement, I'm not an expert, but just over the years that we've used it, I would say what I'm sure a lot of people say, which is really only post when you have something to say. And we do kind of have, our longer term strategy. So sometimes like this week, we're posting for the next week or two about each of the midwifery school classes that we have available a la carte. So I kind of have a schedule and I will be posting about those, and I'll have to come up with something, somewhat inspired to say. But in general, if I don't feel like I have something to say, then I just won't post that day because it's not worth it. You generally won't get good engagement. The other thing is people really do like the, graphic, I hate that word, but the raw birth photos. And if you're posting stuff that you're not going to get as much traction if you have a lot of birth followers following you. The other thing I've noticed about Instagram that can be somewhat frustrating is they really don't like graphics very much. So, if Margot makes these really cute things for us and they never get seen there. So that's kind of frustrating. But otherwise, I would say, it's just about trying to be real and talking to people in a way that they understand and posing them questions that they can answer and kind of have a community discussion about. I think that's a really awesome use of social media.
Awesome. So cool. I loved all of your stories that you did after Cope's birth. They were really sweet.
Thank you.
What would be the best advice that you would have for a new doula or midwife who's just starting out and just starting to grow their business?
Well, it takes time to figure out who you really are in the sense of being a midwife or a doula. And of course, who are you really as a person? Never mind those things. Most of us spend a good deal of our adulthood trying to figure that one out. So, right, you may not feel like you're quite there yet, but I would just encourage people to work on that in all the ways that you know how, all the resources that are out there, in really strengthening your voice, because you can't be someone else. And once you're really secure in what you have to say, it makes every choice after that so much easier. It really negates the idea of competition, especially for people that have local, lots of local midwives or doulas around them. It just doesn't matter. Like, you're not offering the same thing and you're not really talking to the same women. So the clearer you can get on that. And I think that's a journey over many years and decades. And I wouldn't say that on, most days I feel like I'm 100% there either. You're kind of always refining that, and maybe you'll have another experience or attend a birth where something else becomes clear, and you realize, this thing is really important to you and you want to start talking about that more. And then, you attract maybe slightly different women. So your practice from year to year can really look quite different. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I look back on when I was a licensed midwife 10 years ago, and they were lovely families, lovely women, lovely births, but I wasn't really in my own center yet. I just was excited to be doing this. So, the message wasn't as clear, and therefore, you don't attract people that are as resonant. So I think that's the goal, no matter if you're new or old or whatever the case may be.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I haven't signed up for the 13 Moons course because I'm not in a place right now where it really makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But I think it's awesome and I love it, and I hope my sister buys it so I can. But I am wondering, I am on your email list, but do you have like a complex funnel that you have set up if people do opt into information about the 13 Moons course?
Yeah, well, there are
all that's kind of mind-blowing, so it's really confusing to me.
I mean, where do I start? Like, it's so great because Margot and I have so many things going on and so many projects and so many, we think cool offerings. But the hardest part of this business really is like the back, like building all the things and having all the emails. And that's something that we are still working really hard on catching up with in a lot of ways. So I know I'm not answering your question, but just to blab a little bit, years ago, we had the How to Have an Indie Birth course. That was like 7 years ago. Technology wasn't as, advanced as it is now, et cetera, et cetera. So we just put up a page to sell the course, and it was not a good page, and we still sold the course. So for a long time, we just, didn't tackle kind of the traditional marketing avenues of things because we didn't need to. There wasn't as much competition, and whatever reasons, we were growing and changing too. So we're doing a lot of backpedaling with that. Like when people join our mailing list, they get all the welcome emails. Even that needs to be changed because it's been a couple of years and links probably don't work and all kinds of things. So we don't have a purely like 13 moons autoresponder series set up yet, but that's on the list. We do have a webinar for that course, and people can kind of get funneled in through there. So, and then we have a waiting list, email list for the course for when it's
reopening again.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have a huge email list, but people are all like, tagged with sort of different things, and each is such its separate project. And we're always looking for people to help with that though. We have a couple of people on our staff that help with various things, but like writing an email series would be awesome because we just don't get around to all the things, in a week. It's just too much. Yeah.
And so put things on the back burner too when it doesn't seem essential at the moment.
Exactly. I mean, the course filled really well the first couple times we opened it. And so, yeah, not to say that it'll be like that every time. And like for Facebook ads and whatnot, it's great to have people kind of get funneled into something where they're learning about the specific thing they wanted to know about. So yeah, it's all a work in progress.
Okay, awesome. But you do see that as helpful if you are in the online content marketing world.
Yeah, for sure. I think, yes, contacting people is great. And giving them free content. And I think despite our maybe diligence with a project like that, email wise, there's lots of other stuff and free content going on. And that's been really helpful. So, that's not what you asked, but having the podcast has been the best thing ever. Because it's kind of like people can follow their own little trajectory within that and then, be ready for whatever's next for them, whether it's the school or the course or whatever.
Build your own indie birth adventure.
Exactly. You decide where to go next.
Oh, my sister was wondering if she could get some sort of referral because she is always referring people to your guys' courses and then they buy them. I think she recently referred someone to your school and they got accepted right away and they were really excited. So she needs an affiliate link.
Yeah. That's another item on the list, is finding an affiliate program where we could do that more easily. We do have one set up for 13 Moons, but we haven't like put it out super publicly just because, you know, the majority of people probably aren't going to take advantage of that, but she can contact me and I'll put her out.
Yeah, just kind of funny. All right, I think that's pretty much all I have for questions. Is there anything that you want to share as far as indie birth goes, or anything that you want to let people know is coming?
We are enrolling students right now for our 3rd class in the midwifery school, and those women will start in July. And there's still time to at least find out about that if you're interested. And that's indiebirthmidwiferyschool.org. You can sign up for a virtual tour and get all kinds of information and watch videos and listen to podcasts all about the school. And then when you get to the end, you'll know if it's right for you or not. And that's probably next on the list. Actually, next on the list is Margot having a baby. And then after that, after that is the school and probably some kind of fun summer online thing we'll do, but we haven't quite figured that out yet.
Cool. Are you coming this direction for Margot's birth? You don't have to share the answer to that if you don't want to.
Yep, I am. So in a couple of weeks, I'll be there to hang out with her and
cool.
Hopefully be helpful in whatever way. And yeah.
That's amazing. All right. So thanks so much for sharing all of this great information with us. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.